animals in order to avoid predators.
Like
Since they are solitary, most sloths don't expect to be touched and can find even gentle petting quite threatening. So
they got some claws, bro.
To answer your question, was he terrified or she? The answer is yeah, 100%. Definitely terrified.
Well, our hero there had to risk his life up there as well, which I'm not sure if I would have done. Maybe just put a netting underneath and wait for the guy to drop and then catch him there. Do it a different way. But I've got some facts for you too, Rick. Since you got some facts, I've got sloth facts too. Thank you, Emily, producer Emily, super producer. Here's some more facts. Sloths are 3 times stronger than humans. Good thing that one was a little bit smaller, else I don't think Hugo could have gotten him. Victor could have gotten him down. So there's our little guy. Oh, he's so small. Sloths are also blind in bright daylight, which we saw there. Look like pretty bright daylight. So add to the fear. Sloths are faster on water than in land. They're probably pretty good swimmers. So I still don't know how he got himself up there. And lastly, the oldest known sloth is 50 years old and lives in a zoo in Germany. Her name is Jan. I don't know what that green thing was that he was holding on to, but again,
it looked like a Swiffer, bro.
Blindness, slowness, but that sloth's moving faster than you would expect, especially for people who watch Zootopia, which my kid has many times. And apparently that's also a myth too. He moves pretty well, or she, who knows.
Do you remember seeing that one video of the sloth that was like stuck on a road and holding up traffic? And then someone like grabbed a blanket and like picked up the sloth and then just placed the sloth on a tree and like kind of like gave him a high five. That's what I like to think of. But now it's good to know, like just don't even mess with them.
Bro,
like,
I want a sloth. I want a sloth. Imagine walking down the street, hitting the beach, and you got a sloth just hanging out on your shoulder. No one would mess with you. They'd be like, "Oh, that's so dope," and you'd be like, "Don't touch him."
I completely disagree.
Because he'll kill you.
Completely disagree. You're trying to tell me that no one would come up to you when they see something in the wild like that?
Then I tell them, "Hey, he'll kill you. Don't touch him." I'm gonna have a sloth next week, you guys. But that wraps this show. Thank you very much, Vic the Brick, for joining me, yelling a little bit, making sure I had to shut you down. It was a fun Friday, you guys. Up next is John Iadarola with the Damage Report. Man, it's Friday. We'll see you guys next Monday. And for the entire weekend, yeah, I'm still gonna be watching.
everybody, and welcome back to another show here at the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. This is the news, everyone. So try to get serious, please. And to help us achieve that, Brett Erlich is here. Brett, how's it going?
What a red letter day. I'm so excited. Excited.
Thing, right?
What?
Yeah.
It's red letter day, I think, is when everyone would get together, have a great time, and yell at the adulterer and stone them.
That is it a reference to the Scarlet Letter? Because it seems so specific. It could be a blue letter day, green letter day.
Yeah, not a lot of red letters. I'm gonna look it up. What is a red letter day?
Look, I am glad that you have acknowledged in a very vague, non-specific way why today is a great day. I will say, because you're definitely not going to, that it is a great day because our awesome Twitch moderator, Brooke, is having a birthday. So that's great news.
Depending on which lore you follow.
There's a schism in the canon, but whatever. In certain respects, happy birthday. All cards should have the nuance to include in certain respects. Whatever, I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, Brett, I'm glad that you're here because we have a lot of important news to talk about over the course of the next 90 minutes or so. Thank you everybody for being here, by the way. We're gonna be talking about not only Trump's no good, very bad legal week that he's been having so far. We had speculated months ago that if you cut off the child tax credit, that might have bad effect. Well, the data's coming in, so we're gonna be able to see whether our prediction was right or not. Elon Musk is the absolute worst. And on top of that, we've got garbage people. And so I'm missing very important prop. So if I can complete my set here, Trashy is going to eat well. There are different flavors of garbage people. Mine is just icky and sad. Just makes me like depressed that it exists. So that's what I've got for you. I have no idea who Brett's is. Are you excited about your
mine?
person?
A rare opportunity to watch someone take out the garbage person as they're being garbage.
What? I don't even know what this is a reference to.
It is
but I'm excited.
Yeah, it's like you throw it in the incinerator and it just disappears. It was quite amazing and will be therapeutic. So it's a garbage person.
Okay, good.
But not quite as toxic. Also, just to put a button on it, Red Letter Day actually goes back to Roman antiquity, where on their calendar, holidays were written in red ink. Red Letter Day.
They have red ink. I don't know about that.
Yeah, purple being the royal color goes back to then because it was one of the rare pigments that A, stunk very badly, but B, over time actually got more rich in color rather than fade. So that's why royalty was wildly expensive.
It is one of the many products made from the excretions of beaver anal glands, I assume. Good, man, what can't that stuff be used for? I haven't come up with anything yet. So in any way, okay, I've doxed someone. So that's great. Not really, or did I? I apologize. I'm the worst. Blame progressives, that's the theme for today. In any event, yeah, there is weirdly Christmas decorations behind me. We're a hot mess. How are you doing? It's 2022. Okay, if everybody wouldn't mind hitting the like button, sharing the stream, that would be great. And Brett, you wanna do this thing?
Get into it.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's get after it, And we can say that now because who's gonna respond and tell us it's their catchphrase? So let's get after it. Donald Trump's been having a really bad week. I mean, bear in mind, you might have like moved on, or this might feel like ancient history, but it was just this week that we found out that his accounting firm booted him to the curb and effectively said, yeah, like all that like multi-million dollars worth of work we did putting together financial statements for years and years and years. Yeah, that was a big goof. Don't trust any of that. Well, that was sort of how the week began, but it proceeded from there. And as of this morning, a judge has ordered former President Trump and his two oldest children, Ivanka and Don Jr., to testify in a New York civil investigation into his business. Now, there are multiple investigations into him. This is the one where Leticia James, the Attorney General of New York, has alleged that the Trump organization used, quote, fraudulent and misleading asset valuations to obtain economic benefits. And apparently the evidence that the AG's office has accrued so far was at least enough to convince Judge Arthur Engoron that she deserves, a chance to question them in court. Now, of course, the Trump family and the Trump organization had been fighting against this, saying that either it was wrong for a number of different reasons to potentially force them to testify, either because he used to be the president, or no, you don't really want this information for this investigation. What you're doing is you're trying to get us to testify to provide information for separate investigations, including the potential criminal investigation that's also ongoing in New York. But Engoron wasn't buying that, saying that there's already copious evidence of potential financial fraud and that she, Leticia James, has the clear right to hear them testify. But that does not mean, by the way, Brett, that they will actually testify. But what do you think?
This is just one of those. I will say the feeling of following the Trump legal battles in the state of New York. It's just I really want it to lead to this great cathartic moment where they're on the stand yelling at each other, and Trump accidentally says, "Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell," or something like that. Like some very awesome, cathartic, climactic moment. But and I like having it out there because I know that we need to be reminded every day. If Christians are reminded of the suffering of the Lord Jesus Christ every day by looking down at their cross around their neck, which is a torture device, so too should we all be reminded that Donald Trump, as the president of the United States, did such horrific, painful things to the concept of democracy, and that everything his truth was built on was actually a lie. He lied about his financial records nonstop, was very proud of it, always bragged about it. And so when this happens, it just reminds me that he was like that. Will it build to a few good men type moment where he admits he ordered the code red? Probably not. He'll probably just sit there, and whoever gets subpoenaed, the family members, and comes to testify will probably just sit there and plead the fifth over and over and over again. It won't be climactic, but at least along the way, for a lot of people, it does feel pretty nice.
Yeah, look, I think that your prediction is probably gonna end up being true. They will plead the fifth. Everyone involved in all these conversations has so far done so quite a bit. And maybe not, we'll see. I would love to have that sort of cinematic moment. I doubt it'll happen. It's never really that believable. I watched A Few Good Men months ago, and I don't even buy that he would have been trapped in that way. So Trump obviously mentally doesn't have it together in the same way that Nicholson did, or his character did, but still, I have a feeling he will have enough lawyers surrounding him that he will avoid that. By the way, we might not even get there because, of course, this ruling that they have to testify will be appealed. I believe there's something like a several week period in which they can do that. But if it's upheld, it could force them into a decision to either answer questions or plead the fifth. Now, Trump has been very clear in the past on what he thinks about those who choose to plead the fifth. He said the mob takes the fifth. That was back during a campaign rally when he was initially running for president. In 2014, while Bill Cosby was facing all the allegations that came out against him, he said, "If you were innocent, do not remain silent. You look guilty as hell." So Brett, he's been super clear. And those are principles that he's laying out, sort of like core foundational touchstones of his character and how he views innocence and guilt. So clearly he will be testifying soon.
I can't wait till it happens. If worst case scenario, we'll just have a bunch of awesome mashups of him talking trash on him, like the quasi deep fake cuts of here's what Donald Trump would have said to Donald Trump about taking the fifth or not. And meanwhile, we can count how many of his role boys are currently pleading the fifth in January 6th investigation hearings. That happens all the time. Nonstop. They're always pleading the fifth, and like to the tune of 170 or 70 times during their depositions or during the hearings.
Yeah, whether it's like Don Jr. or Alex Jones did that, and you know that guy desperately wanted to say a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but he had to just plead the fifth. It must have really hurt him.
But it's an indicator of when they stop playing. Like that's the truth. When I hear Tucker Carlson go before a judge and say that Fox News isn't news, it's just entertainment. Like I hope that everyone who watches them takes that to heart when they're watching the news, or at the very least has those boundaries.
Does.
The problem is they actually put it into action. So all those people that were there yelling "Stop the steal," that's like watching, I don't know, like watching Moana and then going to try to return the actual heart to Fidi. Like you got to realize that it is a fiction they're putting out for you. It's not reality. It's all for entertainment. The trouble comes when the audience tries to put it into action when really it was just meant to be like a fun little romp.
Yeah.
And that's what's frustrating. And that's what we have to do and what we have to communicate. But at every step, people like Trump, people like Mark Meadows, people like Alex Jones, they all are going in front of a court of law and saying, I'm not serious.
Yeah.
But that doesn't filter through to their audience. What filters through to their audience is just turning on the idiot box or opening their phone and watching this nonsense over and over again and living for it. What I'm most scared about is that at some point they'll start killing for it.
Yeah, killing more. Yeah,
more.
Yeah, I agree. I wish that like them admitting like, no, this is just like they admit that it's a grift and it never gets through to the people they're grifting, unfortunately. Also, I am very happy. What's up?
I just wanted to say, like, we're talking about a few good men. That used to be the way that Americans looked at their politics. They wanted an Aaron Sorkin written aspirational view of the heightened level of discourse in their politics, right?
Yeah.
And now it's an Adam McKay movie. Now it's just ridiculous, over the top stupidity. And Armando Iannucci, like it's that kind of Veep style, in the loop, the thick of it kind of horse crap and nonsense of bloviation and just being super mean.
Yeah. Well, look, if you're watching this, if you are perhaps new to the channel and you're trying to get a feel for what sort of community we have, what sort of show we do, just understand that you will be expected to have done your research on things like A Few Good Men, the specifics of various Marvel films, and also highly specific plot points of Moana, which honestly, I'm here for it. I love that we can be very specific about Moana on this show, because that movie's a delight. Anyway,
watched it 2 nights ago.
That makes sense because you did mention the name of the goddess. Anyway, okay, with that, you're welcome, everyone. Okay, with that, let's talk about some other stuff. We know now that Donald Trump will be compelled to testify in the New York investigation of him. He might end up pleading the fifth, but he is supposed to testify. There were a few last-ditch efforts to stop that from happening, and some of them did not go at all how the attorneys planned. So one was attorney Alina Habba, who was scolded by a judge just yesterday after she claimed that Donald Trump is part of a, quote, protected class, specifically because of his Republican ideology. So here is how they got to that point. Habba said, speaking of Leticia James, she has such disdain for this person because he was president, because he is Donald Trump, and he could probably win again in 24. He has First Amendment rights. He's allowed to be a Republican. And she demanded to know if James is going to, quote, go after Hillary Clinton, citing claims that the former president was spied on. Because the way that courtrooms function these days is you just make vague, non-specific allusions to whatever it is that Fox News is talking about that week. We'll return to that later on the show. But anyway, the judge, Arthur Engoron, says there's no viewpoint discrimination. I'm just saying there is none. To which Habba said he's a protected class. Engoron said, what protected class is he a member of? And Habba said his political speech. If he was not sitting as a Republican and was not a former president who might run again, this would not be happening. So she is discriminating against him for that. Now, the judge, like everyone else, did not buy this. That's not what the protected class thing means. The judge responded with, the traditional protected classes are race, religion, etc. Donald Trump doesn't fit that model. He's not being discriminated against based on race, is he? Or religion, is he? He's not a protected class. If Miss James has a thing against him, okay, that's not in my understanding unlawful discrimination. He's just a bad guy she should go after as the chief law enforcement officer of the state. Which is either, I don't have the video, so I don't know if the judge is saying he's a bad guy or she's in law enforcement, so she's going after the bad guys. I don't know if it's a bad guy or a bad guy. I don't know, Brett, what do you think?
It seems like he is putting that in basically the voice of Leticia James in her perception of Donald Trump. In her perception, he's a bad guy. And this is like how they talk in their hypotheticals and how is specifically higher court judges and appellate judges break things down a lot. And when you get to Supreme Court level, it's always hypotheticals. But yeah, this is amazing. This is for all the cool stuff in the Bible, like the good stuff, the things that are like treat other people like you should be treated. All they learned from it is how to be a martyr. And for Donald Trump, up until January 20th of 2022 or 2021, Donald Trump was the most powerful person in the world. And his legal defense is he has no power and he's being discriminated against.
That mean
that he's a victim here. When he himself is in this cloud of being prosecuted for stuff, investigation, he himself, he is playing the victim from a legal perspective. And what's insane to me is the way, like, for all the stuff, like Republicans saying that they need to be a protected class of people. So much of that party's legislative and judicial agenda has been to eliminate as many protected classes as possible. Is to restrict the definition of that down to whatever it is at now and probably peel back some of those levels of hard-fought protected classes. Only recently has sexual orientation been acknowledged as potentially a protected class. They fought tooth and nail against it. But now the protected class that the legal defense of Donald Trump wants to build a impenetrable big wall with water around it is around former presidents of the United States.
Yeah, they like that one. They like some of the Christian stuff too. If it's specifically defending them against, whatever they want to do to the LGBTQ community. But yeah, you're right. And look, this is obviously nonsense. I mean, it's demonstrable nonsense. She was laughed out of court. He is gonna have to testify. But the idea that like you're just going after him based on his ideology, when you can't cite anything specific about Leticia James or the investigation that has to do with his ideology. It's financial crimes he's committed. But if that was your actual case, then look, they're constantly saying to lock up Hillary Clinton. Do they not like her based on her ideology? She's a protected Democrat. They would never accept that, not for a single second. This is nonsense.
Yeah, it's like what part of your political ideology is at stake here? When we point out that you lied about how much your properties are worth so you can make money. Like I know that's built into like the ethos of fiscal conservatism and people who are like, I'm just a fiscal conservative. But really, like there's laws saying you can't lie about how much stuff is worth. Like I just watched Inventing Anna. She's in jail for it. Like Anna Sorokina, the one who was like the socialite who lied to everybody and said she was an heiress. And
I'm watching it.
Yeah, she's in jail for that because it turned out, according to the reporting that before watching that, she didn't have the money. This is Trump's basically lying about the money. What is frustrating is that he has been treated so differently from everyone, not because he has money, but because he has the perception of having money.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. By the way, wasn't he a registered Democrat during many of the years in which he was doing these financial crimes? Can we get him for those then? That's not a protected class. Anyway, okay, with that, we are gonna take our first break. When we come back, the horrible, obvious, predictable consequences of the choices moderate Dems made playing out before our very eyes. And of course, progressives will be blamed for it. We'll break down all that and more after this.
Pew pew.
So my wife and I have been watching a little bit of Inventing Anna. It's one of the shows that she puts on, and usually I end up getting like really invested in these shows and want to keep watching them. I find it to be very frustrating because it focuses on extremely wealthy people, which generally I hate that stuff. That's why I'm shocked that I like Succession. I normally hate the like glorification of like, look how cool and how much money they have. Also, I find her character to be maybe the most annoying character I've seen in a TV show in like 5 years.
I love that actress.
I don't know anything about the actress. I'm saying the character is super annoying.
Yeah, the character's annoying, but like I really love the cast.
What else is she in?
So much. Ozarks, The Americans.
Oh, I haven't watched either. I've heard both of those are good, especially The Americans, but I haven't seen them.
She's what they would be like someone's aunt will be like, she's a good little actress. That's how you would describe her. I'm sure she is,
but that accent that she does is so annoying. And I don't get why, like the whole idea is that like she's like charming people. I find the character to be utterly charmless. I don't understand why everyone's so freaked out about her.
Well, it depends. It gets going, but she fools people, and yeah, I think it's good. Okay. But you do have to watch her. Like, this is my Shondaland glasses. This is like I'm watching Scandal. It's gonna be like, ooh. Well, I never really watched that. But 3 times during an episode, you're gonna say that's the worst thing I've ever seen. It's like watching Entourage. You just kind of have to.
Yeah. In any event, no big deal. By the way, my wife was in an episode of Scandal. No big deal, everybody.
That is anyway, big deal, John.
It is actually. Okay, so how exciting is this? Coming up after our program, which is itself quite exciting. Indisputable coming up. Dr. Rashad Ritchie joined by Dan Evans. So I will warn all of you that show is going to be awesome. And I'm going to warn Dr. Rashad Ritchie that watch out because occasionally Dan Evans comes to shows armed with firearms. So everyone watch out, but it's going to be a great show. So you're not going to want to miss it. Maggie, welcome to Tier 1 membership over on YouTube. Thank you to all of our members. Waldorf Nation, Tier 1 member. Hey, I know that guy. Gail Hafner hit 15 months, says, hooray, 15 months on a Garbage Friday with Brett and John. Thank you. When you say it that way, it sounds like it's garbage because of us. But I think you know what you just did. Anyway, Cooper the Copper Dragon's been a Tier 2 member for 13 months. It says, came for the news, sticking around for the Moana commentary. I would love to do much more commentary on Moana. By the way, most random commentary I'm gonna be doing. Have any of you read any Christopher Pike novels growing up? Like back in the, no? He wrote these like 14 like murder novels and stuff like that. Anyway, I randomly reread this one that I really liked, and I posted on Twitter about it. And so I'm gonna be going on a podcast to discuss this like late 80s, early 90s teen murder novel soon. And I'm actually very excited about it. I love talking about books and stuff. Anyway, so I'll give you all the details about that coming up soon. I have no idea when it'll be coming out. Anyway, Cat, it's so hard to see the clock here. Cat67, Cat, member for 5 months, says apparently there's been a new round of student loan cancellation by the Department of Education. Yes, so a quick update to our bad update a few days ago. It is new. It's not the same thing as last year. There was a similar like 400 odd million in cancellation. So that did happen this last week, and that's fine, but it is the tiniest little fraction of all the cancellations. So it's good, but I'm not gonna freak out about it. Anyway, Adam Hodges, thank you for the emoji, much appreciated. Jonathan Toten says, we wanted our politics to be like A Few Good Men, but ended up getting Mean Girls, very much so. Okay, lots more to get to, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a sec. Also, rawr. I still don't know who made that noise during our last episode. Everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm John Iadarola. Brett Erlich is here. Brett does a lot of stuff around here. Later on today, he will be hosting Game Busters. What's going on with Game Busters?
Jordan's in charge of Game Busters. Jordan's had quite a week. I don't know what exactly, but I know yesterday he admitted to you that he had no plan for deep dive. Rob Russo was on the show, so it ended up working.
Fast and loose here.
Yeah, it was great. So we're gonna be doing Game Busters tonight. You can bust the game wide open. Jordan will be in charge. We'll have a good time. So don't you worry. Okay. Do you think we did an amazing time last week?
I hear. Do you think Jordan's gonna figure out a way to have them bust Elden Ring wide open in the near future? I think that
it depends on. It's like actors do like their pool movie and then the movie for them.
Exactly.
Like he did his big budget, like Fortnite. We'll play the Fortnite. He loves Fortnite, by the way.
To earn Forest. That's what it is. Anyway, all that's coming up soon. Okay, with that, we got a lot to get to, so let's jump into this next story. So last year, we had the child tax credit, which did a great job in cutting child poverty. Well, thanks to a couple of the worst politicians in our country, we allowed that to lapse very recently. Progressives predicted at the time that that would have horrendous consequences. And what do you know? The data is showing that. We're gonna break that all down. But I want to give credit to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for putting the blame exactly where it deserves to be put on this issue. So she tweeted out, one US senator, quote, heard stories about people allegedly using the child tax credit for drugs without any evidence or data to back it up. He then used that as justification and nuked the entire national program, causing millions of kids to fall into poverty in weeks. Horrifying. Meanwhile, the press talks about it like it's some Beltway drama without ever showing the people who are sleeping in bubble jackets with no heat, or the kids going hungry waiting for some guy in a yacht to decide if they're fully human or not. It's just shameful, all of it. And of course, there she is very specifically talking about Joe Manchin. He's not the only one that caused that to fall apart, but I love it. This is a very real, predictable consequence of political action. And so far, aside from the progressives, it seems to be just a thing of maybe there will be picking up this Columbia research, which we're gonna detail, but are we gonna have, like, Brett, when have we had such a short gap in time between a thing being done, a prediction about the effects of that thing, and a demonstration that the prediction was true? It almost never is this clean.
January 6th.
Okay, sure. Other
but that's
than
it.
that,
But like it has to be something like that. It's like, oh, Trump. I mean, and not even January 6th. It was exactly election night. It was Bernie Sanders saying like the results are going to come in late, and in the time, and so it's going to flip from Trump being ahead to Trump being behind. And then after that happens, Trump's going to say, "Oh my God, what happened? We're going to declare victory." He seized on that moment. It exactly happened how Bernie said. This is actually it's by the numbers. It is exactly causal, just like they said it would be. Like there's money going to families who need it. This reminds me of something else that went viral, I think this morning, if not last night. There was a police department that tweeted their big haul in the New York City Police Department, outlined their big sting where they got some shoplifters.
Yeah.
And they're like, we got these shoplifters. And instead of that table full of drugs like it typically is, it was a table full of like diapers and baby formula, baby powder, baby oil. Don't you see there's a theme here? And they thought they were being awesome. And they're like, look, we saved a bunch of stuff. Oh, we have it. Great. And then at the end of it, they were like, oh my God, this does look terrible. We shouldn't be touting how we just took baby powder away from people, especially when we just got rid of something that will put money in people's pockets so they can afford to put diapers on their babies, let alone feed them.
Exactly. Yeah, that was obviously insane. We talked about it on the show yesterday, and yeah, I hope that people. One of the reasons that I like that someone like AOC and others, of course, this particularly the tweet from Jeff Stein about this research went pretty viral on Twitter is maybe it will force a conversation, on the mainstream media about the expiration of this policy, the consequences in terms of human suffering. And then also we'll get into a little bit later on then the political consequences. And one of those three, maybe the media can get excited about. I mean, the substantive consequences, they're not gonna be interested at all. But at the very least, like she is calling him out. Come on, that's drama. Talk about
right.
That.
And
maybe
yeah.
We'll see.
It's so profound. I really like the theme of this show today because it goes through the ridiculous, and TYT in general, what it offers is looking at the things that like folks who watch MSNBC take for granted, and then revealing that it's all full of crap because of a couple things. One, the laziness of people reporting on this. They're just lazy. Like I've seen those meetings. They pull out the New York Times and they pull out the Washington Post, still the newspaper, and they go through it and say, all right, here's what's on the cover. Here's what everybody else is talking about. And they decide they're just gonna talk like which of the things people are talking about they're gonna discuss.
There was a scene in Pam and Tommy exactly like that. I don't know if you watched that recently, but yeah, you're right. Okay, with that said, let's jump now into the substance. So when it became clear that the Democrats were going to allow the child tax credit to lapse, predictions were made about the consequences of this. We had just closed out months of cheering over the cutting of the child poverty rate. Well, if you get rid of the only thing that can be pointed to as having caused that cut, where do you think it's gonna go? Apparently, it went there. So from July to December of last year, parents received monthly payments worth up to $250 per child if they were between the ages of 6 and 17, and slightly more if they were under 6 years old. That ended up benefiting 36 million households, and according to research, payments kept 3.7 million kids from poverty and reduced monthly poverty by 30%. It was a fairly unprecedented social policy change in the United States with a fairly unprecedented effect in a very short period of time. Well, in the span of just 1 month, from December of last year to January, the monthly child poverty rate increased from 12.1% to 17%, the highest rate seen since the end of 2020. Black and Latino children experienced even higher increases in poverty, with 5.9% and 7.1% increases respectively. Because this is like a constant in virtually everything we talk about. It's all bad, but it's disproportionately worse if you don't happen to be white in America. Researchers say that child poverty rates often fall during tax season as people get their returns. So the second half of the credit received from filing taxes is, quote, likely to result in a substantial but temporary dips in monthly child poverty rates. After April, researchers say the child poverty rate could be persistently high through the rest of the year if the payments aren't renewed. Well, I haven't seen a lot of talk, a lot of pressure from politicians to get this done. Maybe, Brett, with this horrendous news getting out there, maybe if it's talked about enough, they'll do something. Although, again, I don't know even how they would do it. Like, are we talking about them trying once again to do a reconciliation bill? Do we think that any Republicans would sign on to this to get it passed traditionally? I sort of doubt it.
It's just so weird. This is a simple one. This is, do you want kids to be hungry or not? And I love the responses to it are insane. The responses are like, well, the parents are making these choices and they need to reap what they sowed in terms of not having a job. The Republicans will probably try to move it into a like, well, let's open the economy back up and end mask mandates and end all that. That's happening right now. We're all moving on from that, but that's gonna be the argument that they make. But like the easy, simple, everybody kumbaya, let's feel good about ourselves argument of like, let's put the child tax credit. This is a rare situation where not only Democrats, like the Democrats are against something, but Republicans are against a tax credit. Like they're always the ones like, let's get rid of these taxes. I'm paying too many taxes. Like, why don't we give a tax credit to people with kids? Let's do that. But it gets mired in this ridiculous argument that's like, listen, the immigrants, they're the ones with too many babies.
Yeah.
And then
Plus
it's like,
the fact
well,
that it's a constant amount. Obviously, the less money you have, the more significant this amount will be, especially as if you have more than one child. You get the same exact amount, theoretically, if you're richer, but it doesn't matter to you. It's such an inconsequential amount of money. It's the exact opposite way that tax cuts generally are passed in this country. Usually, it's only really beneficial if you have massive quantities of money and therefore taxes already. This is far fairer and more equitable in the way that it works. And so what do you know? This is the one that the right doesn't give a damn about.
And also, I do want to point out in that stat you said about after April and the tax season where people are getting their refunds, just a reminder that so much of the workforce is going from W-2 to 1099, which means there's a lot of independent contractors and a lot of them don't get withholdings. So essentially the reason you get a refund is because when your paycheck comes through, they're setting some aside and giving it to the government along the way. So you've already paid your taxes and they give you back when you overpay. With this 1099 gig worker economy, depending on like your specific relationship with the employer and which employer it is, a lot of times they're just like, here's all your pay, and you take it, and it's not a lot, but you spend it because it's not a lot. And then at the end of tax season, you have to do your taxes, and the government's like, you haven't paid us yet, so here's all the money you owe us. Turning this whole thing on its head at a time when they're relying on people to already have paid their taxes, when the opposite turns out to be true, and that people are double effed.
Yeah. And I will close by saying, if you are a conservative that are watching this, I know the stuff where we were acknowledging that the increase in poverty is worse for Black and Latino families has probably made you totally tune out. You're probably not here anymore. But I will remind you that, let's see, we've got 1.4 million white children additionally being sent into poverty and going hungry. And I got news for you, they're not all libs. There are a lot of conservative white families that have a ton of kids that benefited massively from this sort of program. And it's one of the best pieces of evidence that, like, I know that you've been trained to hate the Democrats and to hate anyone proposing plans like this, but these sorts of plans almost necessarily benefit conservatives far more than the culture war nonsense. That's the only thing they will ever deliver for you. Now, with that, let's jump to a sort of related issue. We just talked about the damage that's been done in terms of child poverty by moderate Dems. That will have electoral consequences. But what do you know? There's an attempt to deflect blame. Woke up this morning, as many people did, to an article in Axios that, man, just isn't it? Squad politics backfire, the article says, with a photo of the squad looking morose for what they've done. They've ruined the Democrats and the Democrats' electoral chances. Well, that is a bold claim to make, considering that the squad collectively has like no power in the Democratic Party. We have a moderate Democratic president. We have his agenda being derailed by other moderate Democrats. So, okay, with great claims demand great evidence. So, Mike Allen in Axios says the hard left politics of AOC and the so-called squad, once a dominant theme for vast numbers of elected Democrats, is back. First of all, demonstrate that. Like that is quite a claim to make and then just move on from. Yeah, the dominant theme. Anyway, it's backfiring big time on the party in power, top Democrats tell us. The push to defund the police, rename schools, and tear down statues has created a significant obstacle to Democrats keeping control of the House, the Senate, and the party's overall image. So again, top Democrats tell us. What sorts of Democrats? Are they members of the squad, or are they people that agree quite a bit ideologically with the exact moderates that have derailed Biden's agenda and have made it so that he's delivered so little over the last 6 months or so? Is it possible, Mike Allen, that they're a little bit defensive about the consequences of their political and ideological strategy? But no, Axios is just gonna take them at their word. Josh Gottheimer is quoted, co-chair of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus, says, what I'm hearing at home and what I'm focused on are common sense bipartisan solutions, from tackling grocery and gas prices to cutting taxes and fixing our infrastructure to investing in law enforcement and fighting crime. They go then to former Senator Heidi Heitkamp, like a taste maker for the Democrats, says her fellow Democrats are hurting themselves by not speaking out more forcefully against liberal positions that alienate rural America. Now the brand is so toxic that people who are Democrats, the ones left, aren't fighting for the party. So that is all the proof that you need, Brett, that the Democrats are screwed. And obviously it is the fault of a few members of the House that haven't been put in charge of literally anything.
Right. Let me just break this down very simply. You put it very simply, but the politics of the squad is not defund the police, renaming schools, and tearing down statues. That's not it. That's not what the squad's about. The squad's about just open AOC's Twitter feed, restoring the child tax credit, wildly popular, expanding Medicare coverage and prescription drug aspects, wildly popular. All of that is the squad's politics. The right has basically just lied about what's happening on the left. And the left, the people in charge on the left, the people with power on the left are not doing anything about it. People on the right are saying it's about critical race theory. It's about schools and parents having power over masks or something. They're saying that. And they're finding really successful messaging avenues. They're making a general population of whites feel like they're the victims. They're doing stuff. What the hell is Heidi Heitkamp doing? Saying, yeah, the right is just so good at pointing out what's wrong with us. Why don't you do something? Why don't you come up with a message? Why don't you point out what the right is doing? Or call me crazy, what your objectives are.
Yeah.
But sadly, they just, rather than trying to win, they're really hoping the Republicans are losers. And they're like, aren't the Republicans terrible? Aren't they horrible? Isn't that bad what they're doing? But not with a compelling argument for who you for. And what are you for? And those are things that Democrats, if they can isolate them and find a way to communicate effectively, people are actually for all those things. But this is ridiculous. And this guy, Mike Allen, is a total dweeb and just really loves this lazy ass approach where he's like, yeah, the police say that, basically taking the top Democrats saying like the people that are calling them out for what they're doing wrong are idiots. And that's like their primary source.
Yeah, and just quoting them and third way and what is he then going to go to cite, levels of support for policies that the squad is pushing for? No, he's not interested in it. Like going back and looking at the promises that Biden made that got him elected that were far more left than the way they're governing now. It got them into office. Now they're not doing it and suddenly he's not popular. That's, I think, an area that you could think about a little bit, Mike Allen. But no, just listen to what these so-called centrists say and present that as definitive proof when obviously they're just doing preemptive damage control to make sure that people don't accurately place the blame on them. They're the ones that have been choosing this path. Manchin and Sinema have decided what gets to pass and what doesn't. So obviously they deserve the blame. We just talked about the child tax credit thing. Child tax credit, massively successful, would be massively popular. Moderates killed it. Damn progressives. They're clearly to blame for all of this. By the way, Heidi Heitkamp lost to a Republican doing the exact thing she says Democrats need to do, which is effectively pretend to be a Republican and assume for some reason that Republican voters will then vote for you instead of an actual Republican. She tried that. She got booted out of the Senate doing that. And now the message is exactly the same from the DCCC. Stop saying to defund the police, as if any of them are still saying that. Deny support for open borders or amnesty, which means play into all right-wing narratives about supposedly where Democrats are at in terms of immigration. Say that you're gonna keep the border safe. Say that you support the cops. Say just every single battleground that the right has dishonestly prepared, that they wanna wage the battle that will be this midterm election on. Stroll in there and say, look, the Republicans are really, really right, but love us anyway, don't hate us, accept everything that the Republicans have said, but still vote for us for some reason. That is their strategy. Anyway.
It is so dumb. It is so dumb. I hate feeling like there's losing. But what are they doing? Honestly, I haven't really heard. Here is the dynamic. I haven't heard from mainstream media anything from AOC. I used to, because they were like the same way that she's criticizing people like sexually frustrated people on the right. Like they thought she was like, I can hear it. Look at her. The camera loves her. Let's see what she has to say, making a bold statement. But now they aren't even this article doesn't have any quotes. There's no quotes from her. There's no both sides. There's no other side. They aren't going out and finding it. They aren't presenting any of it.
Yeah.
They just decided they're going to ignore her.
Well, can I propose a potential explanation before we go to our break? I think one reason is that they know how popular the positions of members of the squad are. So leading up to an election, talk about them a lot. I mean, they might say that they disagree with them, but get them out there, make sure that the voters see them. But then once you're in power, we don't want the voters still demanding we act on these things, so ignore them. Now, it's not a perfect explanation. AOC has been a little bit less vocal recently, but I don't think that it's a coincidence that they've been marginalized and are constantly being attacked. Whereas back during the election, you heard a lot more from them. It mirrors Biden's own rhetoric. He was being way more left in terms of the promises he was making. As soon as he gets into office, suddenly I got nothing for you. That's what it feels like at the very least. Okay,
right, and it's just such a difficult position to put action. It's such a difficult position to put people in who are advocating for these things that will help Democrats. And and right now there's a huge war going on for the poor votes, the poor people's votes, the lower working middle class votes, and the right wing is engaging it. The right wing elites are doing it, and they're fighting for getting votes of poor Americans. Yeah. They're not doing it by advocating for policies that will benefit poor Americans. They're doing quite the opposite. But the leaders of the populist movement in America are a billionaire and the Swanson broth heir. Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson. And the left party, which should be the party of the working people in America, instead of advocating for policies that will benefit their voters and attract more voters, are just like, I don't know what to do. People who are doing the things that we told our voters we were in it for are reminding us that we haven't done it in the 50 years we've been in office. And we're mad and we want them to shut up and wait their turn.
With that, we're gonna take our last break, but everyone don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, oh no. I hesitate to even read this super chat, but T Underhill says, so who is behind the wheel to troll John during the Garbage People of the Week intro? Ha ha ha, let's just get through it. It's almost the weekend, don't troll me, bro. Jason P says, hi, John. Hello, Senor Erlich. Enjoying the show while teleworking. Been a while since I've sent support via Super Chat, so here's some money for an extra log on Brett's fireplace. Happy Friday. Thank you. That'll go towards digital kindling. We appreciate that. Let's see, Luck Dragon says, Michael Burnham of Star Trek Discovery is the most annoying Trek character in Trek history. The actress is phenomenal, but her character is badly written. I am sure I can come up with many more annoying characters in Star Trek, and I love Star Trek, but that's a fair opinion. And yes, there could totally be a gap between the person and the character they're playing. Ryan Nowicki says, do you see any significant developments against Trump and legal issues charging up his base from midterms or giving an edge in 2024? I'm sure the right will try to use that. Although, honestly, they haven't been doing that much of it lately. Like, this would have been a great week to get all defensive supporting Trump, but they've spent much more time on offense attacking Hillary Clinton. I think that they see the offense as is working better for their base. Getting them to hate something is better than getting them defensive about Trump. They'll do both, but that's the way it seems to be working. People are pointing out Wesley Crusher. Game, set, and match. Moondragon says, if Tish James had prosecuted Cuomo, maybe Trump's lawyers would have had less of a point. Maybe, but their point sucked anyway. But I get what you're saying. Neelix is worse, Rusty Bikes. A2. Anyway, Zane, the Magic Puffer Dragon, has been a tier 3 member for 15 months. It says, be serious, Dragon Daddy, with Brett here. Is that even possible for Brett? He's the TYT TDR Joker and can't be serious ever, so don't ask him to be serious. We need silly Brett. Well, I'm sure Brett will provide that, don't worry, but thank you for being with us. Mama Bear Dragon, member for 15 months, says 15 months on a fry, yay with Brett. Love you, John, but Brett is my favorite.
So that's how I felt, John. How you feel is how I felt on Wednesday when I hosted second hour of main show with Ravana. There was a lot like, Brett, you're cool, but
Anna, really fun. Oh, I see.
I'm fun.
I can be fun. Yes, okay. Yeah, somebody yesterday sent in a super chat. They were like, Jordan's so awesome. He's hot and he likes Fallout. And I was like, hey, I like Fallout. I've played it too.
I'm hot.
I have power armor. Anyway, Ayalana on Twitch says, we bought a new bunk bed for our kids from this money, as well as more new clothes. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. That's just street slang for druggies. Anyway, that's what Manchin would say. Ewan Max says, maybe those kids can get food in the metaverse. Yes, kids don't need food and medicine and subsidies. They need them apes. That's what they need, okay, everybody? Let's get an ape credit. for America's children. Anyway, the Artsy Fartsy Dragon gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Very nice of you. Hot Socket gifted 1. Oh my God, there's so much gifting going on. Donkey Teeth gifted 5. Blue Tech, good to see you, gifted 10. Artsy Fartsy gifted 5 more. Jeez. Okay, well, we appreciate that. Let's see you, 30 seconds. Okay, El Resu is at 16 months on Twitch, says, just saw that Emma visited, nice to see her again. Also, can we have her instead of John? She has the right opinion about the Disney Star Wars movies. No, she does not, okay? And by the way, doesn't she kind of agree with me on Last Jedi? Last I checked. We agree on the last one anyway. Don't choose her over me, I need a job. Anyway, with all that said, we got more to get to, so we'll be back in just a sec. This insanity.
Roar.
Who was that just roared?
Totally scared.
Not the director roaring. Anyway, okay, everyone prepare yourself. It's about to get weird and it's about to get local. Let's jump into this video.
That I'm an activist here in town, and this is my home, and I always fight for it, what's right and for the future. Thank you guys, and you all know I've said this to you, for making it a great place. But I am concerned about what I'm reading about the Afghanistan refugees. Look, you guys, we have been through hell in the last couple of years. A lot of us have lost their jobs, lost their businesses. We don't have any money, but yet we are going to fund non-citizens. Keep in mind, we left a lot of Americans behind. And now you want us to have our taxpayers all put in money for these people that the government, which you know is crooked, and they lie. They say they're vetted, but y'all know that they're not. And those people in the back are gonna have to like work double time for those people. I know you guys understand what I'm saying, and I kind of lost where I'm at. But all I trust in you guys. I do. I really do. I'm not going to like yell at everyone. I'm getting tired of the human race. We say all lives matter. Well, you know what? I rescue animals, and I'd rather rescue animals than humans because we're all kind of not working together very well here. And I'm just hoping that you guys can come to another decision. I don't want the refugees here. They might be nice people, but I don't want to pay for them. We have people here that lost their jobs because of the pandemic. Please listen to us and maybe work something out, and I will reach out to each and every one of you. I do trust you guys. Thank you.
That got very nice and understanding at the end. I'm gonna reach out to all of you. I'm sure many people are like, don't feel obligated. Don't feel obligated. Did she say pandemic?
Yes.
That people lost it. There was so much in there, and I have to imagine it was of the Michael Scott variety where she doesn't necessarily know where she's gonna go when she starts, and she's as along for the ride as everyone else. But there was a lot there, with the occasional sprinkling of trying to be nice about it. Like, I'm sure those refugees that I would never allow in this country are nice people, but get rid of them. We say all lives matter. She said that defensively, like that's something we should be saying and believing, when that was a really nasty right-wing response to an acknowledgement that Black Lives Matter. And she prefers animals over humans. I get that in principle. Anyway, Brett, that was a lot. This video is a reminder that these sorts of local meetings are going on. We haven't been covering them as much, but that is Cindy Justin, who's an actor, sort of. Anyway, Brett, what are your thoughts?
This was a great night last night. Last night, there was Jank found this and he sent it out. He's like, I don't know who this is, but this is amazing. And so I got an email saying, who is this? Because you can't really hear her name at the beginning. So I was like, she seems like a regular at the Santa Clarita meeting. So I went and scrubbed through other Santa Clarita meetings. I was like, maybe I'll do that. Like, no, just try this most recent one. I'm scrubbing through 2 hours of Santa Clarita City Council meetings, and you can't really go about a minute and a half. So you have to do 10 seconds at a time. And one of the 10 seconds, I just see someone in a red sweater going, yeah, as they walk away from the podium. I was like, I think that's our girl. So I go back and it's, yes, she's a regular. I went and found her IMDb page. This actress here in town, as she says, was on one episode of MadTV in 1995.
That's a good show.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was great. But she was on one episode, which kind of implies she's not a series regular. She was someone who was on there and went back afterwards and put it on IMDb retroactively as like someone in the back who's going.
If you earn the credit, you deserve it. I might go update my IMDb because I technically appeared in the background of one episode of Glee, and I have not gotten the credit that I feel like I deserve.
Did you really?
So I'm very small. Anyway, yes, but look, these people are out there. They are still being mobilized by this complex, nasty web of misinformation, hate, and xenophobia that is just constantly like targeting them, both on mainstream media like Fox News, as well as online forums, Telegram, Rumble, Getter, soon to come the Truth Social. We're gonna go to one other video. We have her past appearance at a Trump rally here in downtown LA. We're sort of focusing on this because we want you to know that we stand in solidarity with you because these people live very close to us as well. So with that said, here's the video.
The nation is about to go through a cleansing, which means your ass is about to get wiped out.
In the street, I can live with that. But if the content is right and they're really gonna arrest all.
Somebody's ass is about to get wiped out, I guess. I don't know, Brett. What do you think?
I love that they know they're mad and they know they need to do something about it. But when you talk to them, they have no coherent argument, and that's fine. And the sad fact of it is that they go into their bubble where that's fine, but they can get by doing that. And it gets reduced down to just buzzwords and catchphrases, all of which she puked up in front of the Santa Clarita City Council in order of how they came to her mind when she was writing that down. She has no excuse, right? This isn't just someone asked unprompted, like Steven Crowder going up to someone on a college campus and saying, change my mind. And he cherry picks that. No, this is her going to the Santa Clarita City Council meeting with a scripted statement. And that scripted statement made absolutely no sense. And she was like, got it, nailed it, perfect.
Yeah. And you could, in theory, try to balance it out, send reasonable people there to testify. Do we think that would have any positive impact? I doubt it. Anyway, let's try to be understanding. Like there are people who theoretically could be resettled here, whose lives could be massively improved, and by the way, could also help us too. Like these people would come and they would work, they would contribute, they would provide. But there's some people that we will never get through with that sort of message. Anyway, with all that said, if you're watching on one of our linear platforms, thank you for joining us both today and throughout the week. But that is it for us with you. But if you're on Twitch or YouTube or the members app, we do have a lot more to get to, including the ceremonial tossing of the garbage people. So that'll be coming up very soon. We'll be back in just a few. Welcome back to What Remains of the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and Brett Erlich. Before we jump back into our news, of which we have a lot, I want to recognize people. Consider yourselves recognized. John's Venn diagram of desire has been with us on Twitch for 20 months and says, so happy to be spending my 20-month subiversary with the two guys responsible for my Twitch name and without whom I would not have survived this pandemic. Love this community and all the wonderful people and lifelong friends I've made through TYT. I love that. Thank you, and thank you for being with us. Tricky Nurse Dragon's been here for 13 months, says, yay TYT, thanks for keeping it real and therefore horrifying. That is a very accurate way to describe our show. Depressed Progressive gifted 3 months of a tier 1 sub, that's nice. Bark Eater J has been here for 10 months, says, here's to many more, just typed to tier 2 on Monday too. Oh, that's awesome, well thank you again. The Portland Report has been, that's funny for some reason, has been here for 9 months, says glad to have pushed out this Twitch baby on a Friday. TYT and especially you two are the best. Thank you. It just makes me think of the Colbert Report. I do miss that. Anyway. Okay, Burning the Kiwi Dragon says the Karen had me going for 2 seconds. I thought she was going to show compassion, but then descends into being Nigel Farage in her anti-migrant tirade. Yeah, it was an oddly nice, really xenophobic thing to say. Anyway, okay, with that, we've got some important stuff to get into, so let's do what we can. Throughout this week, Fox News has been going hard over Hillary Clinton's massive scandal where she personally hacked into all of Donald Trump's mainframes. And they've been covering it left, right, and well, mostly just right, but everywhere. Tying it to basically everything, including, as we talked about earlier this week, Maria Bartiromo claiming that the whole thing about Ukraine and Russia was being ginned up as a way to distract from the Hillary Clinton conspiracy theory. Donald Trump got involved, putting out one of his statements that said, can you imagine that? What would be the biggest story of our time, bigger than Watergate, is getting absolutely no mention, zero in the New York Times, Washington Post, ABC fake news, NBC fake news, CBS fake news, dude, get a new joke. In the New York Times, Washington Post, blah, 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 ratings at CNN and MSDNC. This is in itself a scandal. The fact that a story is so big, so powerful, and so important for the future of our nation is getting zero coverage from lamestream. It's a huge story, and they were rightfully angry that the media wasn't covering it. People were paying attention though. In fact, a Rasmussen poll apparently showed that 65% of voters say that special counsel John Durham's allegations that the Clinton campaign spied on Donald Trump are a worse scandal than Watergate, and those involved should be prosecuted. So people get it, even if the lamestream doesn't. This is an important story that demonstrates Hillary Clinton's illegal acts. You know who doesn't agree though? John Durham, who put out the report. He has distanced himself from the Fuhrer and right-wing media over the filing. And after waiting a full week from when he put out his report and letting constant conspiracy theories develop, he now says, if third parties or members of the media have overstated, understated, or otherwise misinterpreted facts contained in the government's motion, that does not in any way undermine the valid reasons for the government's inclusion of this information. So, no, you guys have been totally off base. I'm distancing myself, but like, don't get mad at me. I'm just sitting here watching the right go crazy, Brett.
Listen, John Durham's hair has distanced itself from everywhere but his chin.
He has a fabulous beard.
Yeah, I love it. It's like it was every other bit of hair was so sad it was missing out on the beard situation that it abandoned its post and scurried down to his chin. I have no idea what other than what the image summons, as though he like fell through a hole at the Battle of Gettysburg and ended up in 2022. But I'll say this. If it is the case that a smaller shoe on an M&M can be 3 days worth of news for the right wing, so too can an investigation on which was a news dump on a Friday. These new things they're talking about are just news dumps from the Friday before the Super Bowl. They're gonna get years out of this because of course they will. because and both sides have something similar where it's just like this weird, like, I need there to be some kind of consequences for this person I hate. It's Donald Trump and subpoenas and them going up there and lock her up. And the more that they keep with the lock her up rhetoric on the right, the more I'm just like, let's put Trump in jail. I got to have something like that. The difference,
and to be fair, let's put Clinton in jail too, just to be fair, to even it out.
Yeah, I don't
be
care.
Fine. No,
and I'm fine with like an investigation to continue, but like Rasmussen polls are not the most unbiased polls on the planet.
No, and that's a Fox person who put that out. And by the way, is that person now like saying, "Oh, oops, I got out in front of myself"? John Durham says that we've totally misinterpreted this. And oh, by the way, if we had bothered to actually look at the information, which again, as Brett said, was dumped on a Friday. So if you're wondering why the media didn't talk about it, that's why. By the way, as soon as the week came back, they did talk about it. Also, none of the information was new. It had all been reported months earlier. The only thing that was new was the self-involved biased misinterpretation of the news. But the thing is, nobody cared to actually read what the claims were and whether there was any evidence of it, whether it had anything to do with Hillary Clinton, which it did not. It was just convenient. And so they created a news cycle out of it. And look, maybe we should expect that like Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham and Janine Pirro and all that aren't gonna do any better. But you also had people like Tulsi Gabbard and Glenn Greenwald jumping to comment on this. They were so interested, just not interested enough to actually read any of the information that had been revealed in the filing. And so I am sure that they'll be very apologetic about their enthusiastic mistakes now, definitely. But no, there wasn't anything here. It was obvious from the very beginning, but they need something to talk about. And I guess you can't make a whole week of news just about the Canadian truckers. I think you need something else. And there's nothing happening with Skittles or whatever. So this was it, Brett.
And by the way, Taste the Rainbow, the LGBTQ community has taken over Big Candy.
Clearly.
I will say the breakdown of the Rasmussen poll is 50% say it's very important. So that's Republicans. 18% say it's somewhat important. And it's not whether you think it's true or not. It's essentially basically like, it tells you like somebody spied on someone. Is that important? And they say somewhat.
Even though that's not what the story actually showed. But Rasmussen doesn't care. They're there to provide the sorts of polls that Trump would be excited about. That's pretty much it. Anyway, with that, let's jump to very different news. Elon Musk loves a few things. One, having way more money than any person could ever conceivably use in 1,000 lifetimes. And two, stealing memes and posting them without really thinking about it. Sometimes that gets him free thumbs ups and likes. Sometimes it leads to him deleting the tweets when he should have paused and thought about what he was doing. The tweet that he recently deleted was this: a photo of Adolf Hitler saying, "Stop comparing me to Justin Trudeau. I had a budget." So you get the joke there. Hitler's better than Trudeau because he had more limitations on his power. So that was what Elon Musk posted to be cool or clever or funny or whatever. I don't know, and I doubt he thought about it much more. He has since taken it down, but it falls in line with the admiration that he has posted about for the Canadian truckers who are doing their protest against vaccine mandates and all of that. Brett, what do you think?
It's crazy that the son of an apartheid era emerald miner doesn't really like appreciate the sensitivities of cultural of massive racial issues. Anyways, I think I don't like what Trudeau's doing. Like there was this video I watched of someone from the Canadian government like saying they froze the assets of a bunch of people like giving to a GoFundMe. Like I'm not a huge on the side of Justin Trudeau person right now, but like this idea that like if you're an edgy comedian, you make Hitler jokes is not true. Like if you're a good comedian, you can get into those waters and get away with it because your joke makes sense and your joke is funny. But in this situation, it's just a bunch of dweeby jerk faces thinking they're being awesome and edgy and cool, and everybody else is a square because they're not laughing at their hilarious Hitler jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, like you're comparing it to a real comedian. So a real comedian, has to win over an audience. They're really being tested. He only needs to be as clever or thoughtful as the people who choose to follow him on Twitter. Like he has millions of people who follow him that think that he's the best person that has literally ever lived. He can just post a photo of Hitler and say, haha, that's Trudeau. And he will get more retweets than everything you and I tweet for the next year. Like we can't, it's fun to dunk on like an average Charlie Kirk tweet. Be like, that's stupid. You don't even understand what point you're making. And yet it is gobbled up. The standards are so low. Why would they be any more clever or funny or thoughtful than they are forced to be? They have enthusiastic, frothing at the mouth followings with absolute nonsense.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's like you don't gotta make the Hitler joke.
No,
you don't gotta.
And by
I
the
had
way,
a
it's not
budget.
to say,
Like that doesn't even make sense.
I don't. Does Canada not have a budget? I don't even understand what point he's trying to make, and I don't want to invest any more of my thought into it.
Don't get me wrong, Hitler does look great in that photo. Like I never thought Hitler was that much of a snack until I just saw this photo.
Look at that edgy guy. Humor from Brett Erlich here. He's a regular Musk. Anyway, the American Jewish Committee responded and is demanding an apology. I'm just gonna move on with this, saying that comparing Justin Trudeau to a genocidal dictator who murdered millions is not an appropriate way to criticize policies. I'll have more to say about the substance of the comparison with my garbage people. But anyway, do want to remind you that doctors have recently alleged that some of the primate research Elon Musk has funded ended with the horrible mutilation and death of a number of primates. Also, Tesla is facing racism lawsuits for the culture that they have tolerated there. So just a lot of great news for Elon Musk recently. He's really killing it.
Do you think at the end of that photo shoot with Hitler, they were like, now let's try the fun one. Let's do like a bonkers one. Like, ooh, okay, let's do this, do like a, I don't know. Do they have like a ladder behind him that he's supposed to like rest on like it's senior portraits?
I don't want to joke anymore about
just
Hitler
that moment. Do you think he's like, okay, 1 second, I will be, hang on, let me get this. Let me do my version of smizing. Do you have it? Do I look angry enough?
Okay.
Am I serious? I look serious?
Get in it. Get in it. Get in it, Brett.
Yeah, I earned it.
You. Okay, with that, I'm gonna read a few comments and then we're gonna move to the garbage people of the week. That's funny, Moondragon. Let's see. Donkey Teeth says, one of these weeks for a top 10, you need to do the top 10 royalty-free songs that play in TYT breaks. Well, the thing is, I never actually hear them. That's the weird disconnect. I can't hear them. Let's see. James Cruiser says, Brett, better comparison for court versus TV is when a wrestling fan jumps the guardrail and punches a WWE fan. It's an interesting comparison there. We like our pop culture references to stay specific to Moana. Thank you. Maybe Lilo and Stitch. Anyway, Matthias says, does Musk's Tesla benefit by the truckers blocking the car parts from Canada to his competitors? I have no idea. It's entirely conceivable that some of that would harm Tesla as well. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Okay, Ace Hunter with us for 10 months on Twitch. Thank you for that. Marvel's The Sentry for 10 months as well. Thank you. Okay, with that, Brett, are you ready to do this?
Yes, why not?
You made TK the Dragon spit out their coffee. So that's great. Anyway, let's do this. It's the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. I was really expecting to be cut off there. Well, Brett, it's been a week. Who's your garbage person of the week?
Seldom is someone able to be garbage and get called out immediately and placed in the trash as efficiently as happened in my garbage person of the week. A TikToker who obviously wanted to do some kind of demoralizing bit for this person who worked at what looks like a Wiener Schnitzel or something like that. And he tries it, fails, and gets put in his place immediately. Take a look.
Did somebody say check?
Get your food. Well, I already heard your ass earlier. I ain't no child.
This is my favorite genre, is the TikTok prank that backfires.
I don't even understand what he was trying to do there.
He was trying to say, is someone saying that I want number 283 or something? Like he wanted to show up like some kind of gallant knight. And she didn't know either, but she knew that he was messing with her. And I felt like this would fit on this show because last week your garbage person, or for something we covered the family that started singing at the ice cream worker. And I love that this woman just was like, no, come over, get your food, and get the hell out of here. Made me so happy.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And look, I will only speak for myself. Any of the individual people, whether TikTok or otherwise, that we critique in this way, it is not totally about the individual. I want to fight back against the trend. I love that the creation of a variety of things that can conceivably be linked in some way philosophically to art has been democratized, and the ability to spread your art is much easier than it's ever been. That said, consent is still a thing. Like you can make your thing. Not everything has to be about deputizing random people trying to live their life into your whatever. Sing your song, do your dance, do your sports stunt, do whatever it is. Other people are people, and if you want them to be involved, you have to ask them. You don't just make them a part of it. Is that too much to ask? It's just basic common courtesy. TikTok should not be like immune from those sorts of considerations.
There's plenty of implied opt-ins. Like if you're at a Trump rally, you're opting into some kind of political discussion. So when Jordan Klepper shows up and starts talking to you, you've opted in. But in these situations,
you can still opt out, I think.
You can still opt, you definitely can opt out of that because you have to sign a release form or not, or they won't 100%. Use it on the Daily Show. So everyone that you see that did that ostensibly has been like, yeah, I nailed it. Here, take this release form.
Sure. And yeah, I can't speak for Jordan Klepper, but I've done a few of those like crowd things, and I always approach people and ask, can I ask you a few questions about blah, blah, blah? And if they say no, I don't start singing about ice cream, I go away, probably blushing profusely.
Yeah,
anyway.
There you go. I really enjoy this genre of backfiring pranks. I hate, there was another video that's circulating of two people doing a TikTok in a shopping cart face to face sitting in it, and then they get stuck and they have to bring in like an industrial cutting machine to get them out of it. So good.
You got in, you can get out. They didn't have to cut them. That's crazy.
Yeah, they should have knocked it over.
Faked it. Anyway, they should have just knocked it over. Or like dunk it in a river, they'll get out. They'll get out. Anyway, okay, there's gonna be some, they have to, or else. Anyway, there's gonna be some overlap with our last block for mine, but I have other points that I wanna make about it. So, for my garbage person of the week, it is of the sort that I would classify as depressing and icky more than anything else. This is a video of an individual talking about comparisons between what is being done to the Canadian truckers and Nazism, and here is a defense of those comparisons.
The way something like the Holocaust starts is you otherize people, right? You keep otherizing them. You say, oh, you can't be part of the economy. You can't own a store. You can't do this. We're going to demonize you. You're diseased. So it is not a giant leap, okay? It really is not, and I don't care how much hate I get for this. It is not a giant leap after 2 years of demonizing certain people who wanted choice, medical choice, and choice used to be thought of as a good thing, to compare them to the Jews before the Holocaust. It's not a perfectly symmetrical situation, right? There aren't gas chambers in Canada yet, okay? So it's not perfect, but it is not deeply wrong.
No, it's deeply deeply wrong. It's obviously deeply wrong, you grifting a-hole. Like, it just makes me so sad, Brett, because obviously lots of people are making these comparisons. Like, it's all about making right-wingers feel like victims, and nothing makes you feel like more of a victim than having someone tell you it's okay for you to think that it's as bad for you as it was for people who were being exterminated in the Holocaust. Lots of people do that, and it's bad. And even some, like Marjorie Greene, have had to apologize, of all things, for those comparisons. But to have Dave Rubin, who is Jewish and who started that segment by saying, I've lost people on both sides of the Holocaust, as cover for right-wingers to say, yeah, no, it's the same. And then it isn't just a defense. He said in Canada, they don't have gas chambers yet. So the Canadian government wanting truckers to be vaccinated against a disease, a fatal disease that they can spread to others, that is needlessly killing tons of people, as we'll get to, is the prelude to the forced extermination of Canadians. And that is what a person who started the segment off by saying, I get the Holocaust more than anyone because I'm Jewish, that is the cover he's providing. It is the sickest form of grift. The right just wants people to take their identity and say, you right-wingers who don't share this identity, it's totally cool for you to attack or mock this.
That's amazing. What does it mean to have lost people on both sides of the Holocaust? I think he means both sides of his family.
I assume. I am trying to give all of the understanding possible.
Don't give Dave Rubin any credit. Don't give Dave Rubin any credit. It's instead of the Holocaust being the comparison, I feel like Holocaust comparisons should be the comparison. Like, everything ends up getting compared to the Holocaust, and this slippery slope argument they're making only applies to Holocaust comparisons and not the actual Holocaust. Because someone first did the first one, like, this is just like the Holocaust. And people were like, that's insane. You can't say that, obviously. This is about trying to keep people alive versus trying to kill people. But in this situation, more and more people comparing it to the Holocaust gives it this critical mass. And before you know it, like, everybody's comparing it to the Holocaust, and there's no one not comparing it to the Holocaust around to save us. Like, that's how it works with everything. That's how it works with critical race theory, etc. And the last thing is, like, super fast. You call people, quote, diseased. Well, this is about a literal disease, you idiot. And he's just like Joe Rogan in that he tells you he's being wrong as he's being wrong. He admitted 3 times along the way, this is full of crap. And then he does it.
It just like, it's not surprising to anyone that Dave Rubin is willing to say whatever he has to say to get money. That has been his career, but it's just, this is particularly disgusting considering the stakes.
So stupid.
Okay, so many people have needlessly died because of the anti-vax propaganda that he is a willing participant in. I hope the house is nice. I'm sure it's very nice. Do you have heated floors in your bathroom? I hope that comforts you. Anyway, you all have voted. 28,000 of you, and here are your 5 garbage people of the week. Coming in at number 5 with just 2% of the vote, gamers for complaining about peach fuzz on a female character. That is the lowest vote I've ever seen for one of these entries. Number 4 with 6% of the vote is Don Jr. for whiting out Trump's disappointing numbers on Truth Social. That's funny, it's such a petty one. Number 3 with 23% of the vote would be Rand Paul for encouraging trucker protests to come to the US. Number 2, 26% of the vote is the Olympics for their double standards when it comes to drug tests. But number 1, your community garbage people of the week at 42% of the vote, Florida Republicans for advancing their hateful Don't Say Gay bill. I cannot disagree with you on that one. Absolutely horrendous. Thank you to all of you who vote and do vote every week. We have a lot of fun with it. That said, Brett, thank you for joining us. I know everyone's looking forward to seeing you on Game Busters. Everyone tune in on Twitch later on. Indisputable's up next. I will be leading the first hour of the Young Turks with Cenk and Francesca, so you know it's gonna be a lot of fun. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.